Tonight on Food Network, it's a surprise. The show that throws you a party when you least expect it. It's back to the Outback when Joanne Manning Cross gets a big dose of Australia to remind her of her hometown roots. We've got the perfect plan to bring the land down under to the Big Apple. There's much more than Vegemite and Foster's on the menu, so put another shrimp on the Barbie as Joanne goes back to the Outback. It's great food, great fun, and fabulous party ideas right now on It's a Surprise. G'day, mate. I'm Mark Summers, and welcome to It's a Surprise. You know, it's quite a distance from the Great Barrier Reef to the Great White Way, but that's the trip that Joanne Manning Cross took exactly 9 years ago, hoping to make it big here on Broadway. But you know what? Now she's more apple pie than meat pie, which is exactly why two of her Aussie friends, Seán and Liam, called upon us to assist on bringing her back to the Outback.
We wanted to have this party for Joanne because she left Australia a long time ago, and things have kind of changed.
9 years ago, Joanne Manning came to America from Australia to make it big on Broadway. A performer since childhood, she quickly found roles in shows like Victor Victoria. She is currently dancing in the Broadway smash Contact. This Tony Award-winning dance musical is one of the hottest tickets in town.
It was tough for my parents when I came over here. I think they felt like they were losing me, to New York City.
She was feeling a little lost herself until she was reunited in America with Liam Burke, fellow performer and childhood friend from Australia. He introduced her to another Aussie on Broadway, Seán Hingston, and the three good friends have provided great support for each other in their new home away from home.
People back home, I think they're really happy for me. I think, people were really pleased to see that, Aussies can get out there and do well here in the States.
But in the process of succeeding here, they've had to make some concessions. They love it in America, but they find their heritage fading a bit as they become more assimilated. This has become a concern for Seán and Liam.
I ran into her in the ballet shop, and she hadn't changed a bit physically, and then she spoke, and she was like this American girl. Her accent she started to use the R's, and in black, and looking like Miss New York, and hip and cool and American. We were like, what happened to that, Aussie chick in the bikini top and all the color? So, I think it was important that we remind her where she's from and what she's about.
And if adopting an American accent wasn't bad enough, Joanne fell in love with and married David Cross, a Yank.
Last time we were in Australia, someone mistook her for an American, which her eyes lit up and she got all scared looking, and she tried really hard to get her accent back.
We hope to remind her of her Australian roots and bring a little bit of, the stuff that we don't, that we forget about every day. The language of Australia and the climate and the food and the party kind of fun,
Seán and Liam were both about to open in new shows on Broadway, so they put their very special friend in the hands of a special party producer, Chazz Levy.
I've been in business for 20 years. I am definitely a party girl.
Chazz got her start in the flower business and then quickly moved on to society, weddings, and events. She's an expert at using flowers to transform any space, which was important in bringing Australia to New York.
It's a natural country. It's about natural beauty. It's wild, it's free, it's outdoor, and that's who I am.
I met up with Chazz at the only Australian restaurant in New York to work out the plans for Joanne's party. Tell me about Joanne. Did you have to do a lot of research on her?
Well, we had to find out, number one, what made someone really Australian.
So the first challenge for us was in learning what would be the perfect representation of Australia. This would impact our decision on menu, decor, and party activities. Chazz did a little research.
We really were able to interview her friends and also other Australians in terms of what makes Australia special, what are the parts of Australia that you keep with you no matter where you live. And I started to try and put all those things together and create a feeling for her that would remind her of home, and make her homesick, and also make her want to hold on to these things no matter where she lives.
Even more challenging was finding a location. We needed something that would suit Joanne and, at the same time, be a place we could transform into the wide open spaces of Australia in the middle of congested New York City.
Joanne and her friends are all in the theater. And when we were looking for a location, it was like, where are we going to do this? And it had to be someplace that, one, she'd feel comfortable, but two, would be able to accommodate our party. And we found a little theater right on 42nd Street.
So the location's going to be a little difficult because there's not a kitchen there, right?
No, it's a real theater, and so it's going to be a little bit tricky.
Coming up, we'll learn how to do things the Aussie way. We now return to It's a Surprise on Food Network. It's back to the Outback with two good friends who want to give fellow Australian Joanne Manning Cross a surprise dose of Australia fast. So we've hooked them up with party producer Chazz Levy to bring the Outback to New York.
I really was intrigued by creating a theme, in New York City that had to look like Australia.
Chazz faced a big obstacle with this one. When throwing a party with a theme, it's important to have the correct information. In this case, she was going to have to do a lot of research, but she's a quick study.
I knew nothing about Australia.
How'd you find out?
Well, I went to the Consulate General, I contacted different organizations, I went to the Australian Trade Commission. Anytime you want to use a country as a theme, let's say you're doing something about the history of your family and you want to trace your roots, really use the resources of an atlas and any books you can. Go to the travel bureaus of those countries. They'll have tons of information for you, and they'll actually have things that you can use. And follow that guide, follow the colors of the flag, anything to bring home, the feeling of that country. And most importantly, it's going to be the food.
With that advice in mind, we went straight to the source, native Australians, to learn what's quintessentially Australian. But first, we needed to understand what they were saying.
You say like idiot, we say drongo.
Things that surprise us, we say struth.
You say girl, we say Sheila.
Things are on the straight, the true, we say rigid jig.
You say guy, we say bloke.
And they had plenty of suggestions for the party.
The party should be like an outdoor sort of theme.
Drinking,
meat pie and sauce.
eating meat pies.
The Chazz we drink all the time. At the beach, dinner, breakfast if you're lucky.
Pavlova.
It seemed our Aussie sources placed a lot of importance on food, so we attacked that first. Chazz was lucky to find a rare resource.
The restaurant was pretty easy because it's the only authentic Australian restaurant in New York City. And because we wanted to get not just the food, but the Shiraz that we're drinking right now is not readily available. We found 8 Mile Creek and we were good to go.
Although the restaurant specializes in exotic fare like seared kangaroo, the decision was made to go for more common foods that would make Joanne long for home.
What I did from this menu is more home-style Australian foods that everybody grows up with. Pavlovas, meat pies, sausage rolls are things that every town has a little pie shop. Every mother's make pavlova in Australia.
And Joanne is a kind of connoisseur herself. Her father owned a pie factory while she was growing up.
I'm sure that when Joanna tastes this food, she's going to become very homesick.
The food will be served in a buffet in keeping with the laid-back style of Australia. The main course is roast lamb.
The lamb in Australia is very well tended to, very high-quality lamb, and everybody eats it. It's like steak or would be in the United States.
And no Australian meal would be complete without a pavlova, a meringue-based pie topped with whipped cream and fresh Australian fruit. The pav is so common that every household has its own recipe, and there are national debates on how to make them.
The woman told me that if you put the pavlova in the oven, you can't show it your teeth. but you have to give it a big smile when you pull it out of the oven. That way it comes out perfectly. What's important in a pavlova is getting a good stiff peak. You want to make sure that your recipe has cornstarch in it. That helps with the marshmallowy texture. What we do is we bake the meringue for about 2 minutes on a high temperature and then turn it off and let it sit overnight. That way it sets a really crisp crust and gets a nice marshmallowy inside.
We were also able to locate a few bottles of Chazz, Australia's most famous wine.
And Chazz is the grape that only grows?
Not only grows in Australia, but it's what we've, for the last 160 years, what we've grown mainly is the Chazz. That's what we're very good at.
So the menu is firmed up weeks in advance. Childhood favorites like meat pies, vegetable pasties, roast lamb, and pavlova, washed down with Chazz and Australian beer. Cheers! We now return to It's a Surprise on Food Network.
You want some great party tips? You got to listen to what Chazz Levy, our party producer, did. She made placemats quite simply by getting a book such as an atlas and making color copies. And this was done at a one-stop copy center. After you make the color copy, you can choose to use this size, but we chose to enlarge it. And then right there at that particular copy center, and at most across the country, they'll laminate it. And you can make them square, or you can make them rectangular, and you don't have to just use maps. We have some pretty pictures of Australian children, a highway scene, and just some scenic backgrounds. And the best part is, it's inexpensive, simple to do, and they make terrific party favors.
It's back to the Outback when two Australian friends want to refresh Joanne Manning Cross's Australian roots with a surprise Down Under party. Playing on Joanne's dramatic nature, we've converted a theater in Times Square into a square of her hometown of Queensland, Australia.
The biggest issue was how do we make this indoor theater have the sense of being outdoors? And because I'm in a theater, I started thinking about backdrops. And I found a backdrop company and found a wonderful backdrop that gives the sense of being outside. It's a beach scene, it's got wonderful sky. And that really took care of the whole back wall. Then the next step was to think about the colors. What else would you see at a beach? An umbrella, chairs, lounge chairs.
One of the most important elements of any Australian party is the barbie, the grill. Since our food is already taken care of, we're using the grill as a prop. First, Chazz got flowers that were indigenous to Australia to maintain the theme. Then, she simply used floral wire to put them in place.
Pre-measure the width of the pole of your grill, the legs, and then just wrap around. And if it's a little long, that's actually good because that means you can double attach something. Be very careful, though, to stay below the grill where the coals are going to be.
The decor will make Joanne feel like she's in Australia, but we have one more thing that will surely rejuvenate her Aussie heritage. A childhood game called Pass the Parcel. It's like musical chairs, but with a multi-wrap package that gets unwrapped every time the music stops. The person that unwraps the last wrapping gets to keep the gift. Chazz is setting up the stage area for all the party events, but she has also found a use for the backstage area.
The backstage area is where our kitchen is going to be. So it was important when we put up the backdrop not to lock in that space. So we created a little alley. We turned the backdrop so we have a little hallway that our caterer can get in and out of.
If you've got a party location without a kitchen, you can rent warming ovens to keep food hot. It arrives from the restaurant already made and is stored in the ovens until served. As the bar is readied, Chazz finishes the decor. And here is how we have transformed this empty off-Broadway theater into the land down under. We figured out how to remind the unsuspecting Joanne of her homeland, but how do you surprise an actress who is accustomed to every dramatic twist and turn? Well, this is the plot we've devised. We've had Joanne's husband, Dave, tell her he's taking her out to a play, but she's not really going to a play. We've arranged for a fake audience, ticket taker, and star performer. When Joanne arrives, she'll begin to take part in what she thinks is an audience participation show. She'll be quizzed on the Aussie-themed subjects. Then the curtains will open, revealing not the play, but that this whole ruse was her surprise party. Our party guests begin to arrive. We've had them all dress for the Australian beach.
So they will become props too, which is what's so wonderful, is that if you get as many people as you can to follow the theme of your party, it reinforces the party. So everywhere you look, you really feel transformed.
It's getting close to the time Joanne is set to get there. And we put everyone in place on stage. Seán and Liam brief the guests on what will happen, and the curtain is closed, hiding the party just in time for Joanne's arrival. Joanne has arrived, and our usher Chazz brings her to her seat. She's ready for the show. Joanne completely believes she is here to see a play and is unaware of what actually lies behind the curtain. Joanne settles in for the show she will soon be starring in. We now return to the final moments of It's a Surprise. Actress Joanne Manning Cross thinks she's about to see a show about Australia. Little does she know, all of her friends are backstage. She's about to become the star of her own surprise party.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you all for coming to my koala. By chance, is there anybody out here from Australia? Yeah? Come on up. What's your name?
Joanne.
Come on up, Joanne. Before the show starts, we just have to identify a few of these items here. Which of these continents is Australia?
This is tough. B.
B? Mm-hmm. Final answer?
Yeah.
Now, in the United States, we call this a cooler. What would you call it in Australia?
Oh, well, that's tough.
That's tough?
I may have forgotten.
Esky.
Esky.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
as we all know, Australians love their beer. Which of these is Australian?
This one?
You're right.
Yeah.
Excellent. You know what? You are Australian. And guess what else? This is your show.
Joanne is completely surprised. She realizes that she knows all of the people on stage and some she hasn't seen in years. Joanne still doesn't really understand what's going on, but the huge outpouring of emotion brings tears to her eyes and to some of her friends as well. She joins her friends on stage.
So, Joanne, when Australia Day passed this year without any word of recognition on January the 26th, no word of recognition between us,
Nada.
let alone a celebration.
Nothing.
I noticed that.
Yeah. Not even a how's your father.
We realised an Aussie injection was needed to keep you from sinking into the Yankee vortex which surrounds us. Our solution, an Aussie surprise party with real Aussie beer. Crack your tinnies, mates.
Yeah!
An Aussie cuisine courtesy of 8 Mile Creek.
After all the explanations are finished, Joanne has one question.
Where are the pies?
I can smell them.
It's time to eat.
Good.
Have a bite of a meat pie. Oh, this is good.
Yum, yum, yummy, yum.
Sausage roll.
Just like my mom.
Thank you.
Joanne's favorite drink is uncorked. It's a sparkling Australian Chazz that's very hard to find stateside. And the buffet is finished off with a quintessential Australian dessert.
Oh, it's a pavlova!
Looks like the menu of meat pies, sausage rolls, and pavlova has done it for Joanne. Let's see if we can bring her even closer to her homeland with a game, Pass the Parcel.
It's not pass the parcel, okay? Pass the parcel. Pass the parcel.
Everyone gets into the game. Even the American guests are caught up in the Australian spirit.
Anytime you do a party that has a theme, it really engulfs everyone that's there. And it's that kind of community spirit that happens when you share an experience that you won't forget. This made an impact on everyone, not just Joanne.
Let's see what made this surprise party such a success. The location reflected the personality and interests of the guest of honor. The menu captured perfectly the feeling of Joanne's childhood in Australia. The party wasn't for a birthday or a specific milestone, so it was a special experience for everyone. It only took a little help from her friends to remind Joanne Manning Cross that you can take the girl out of Australia, but you can't take the Aussie out of the girl. And now I'm going to try out what I've learned at the Australian consulate.
Mr. Summers, I'm available now.
Oh, great. I'll try out what I learned here. Here we go. Good day, mate. So I've nutted out a plan. I'm no mug. Everything's beaut.
Yes, well, what a drongo. Come this way.
Oh, well, this may take a little longer than I thought. But hey, thanks for watching. And as I always like to tell you, you never know who we may surprise next. It could be you, mate. I apologize. I didn't mean that.
For more information about the recipes or party ideas you have seen on It's a Surprise, visit our website at foodtv.com.